Welcome to episode 18 of the Real Recovery Podcast. In today's episode, join your co-hosts Julie and Peter as they sit down with Becca S. to delve into her incredible recovery journey. From her chaotic high school years to her inspiring transformation into a beacon of hope for others, Becca's story is a testament to the power of resilience and community. Stay tuned as we explore the ups and downs of her path, the importance of finding the right support, and how she now gives back to the recovery community through unique and inclusive initiatives. Get ready for an episode filled with raw honesty, heartfelt moments, and inspiration for anyone on their recovery journey.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Recovery Podcast. I'm Julie, your co-host, on this journey of healing and transformation. Together with my co-host, Peter, we dive into the heart of recovery, sharing stories that resonate with courage and inspiration.
That's right, Julie. Each episode is a new chapter in this vast narrative of recovery, and we're honored to bring them to you. But keep in mind the perspectives you'll hear are for informational purposes only and may not reflect the views of the podcast or our partners.
Indeed, while these conversations can be a powerful part of your recovery toolkit, they are not substitute for professional medical advice. We encourage you to seek guidance from your healthcare provider for any treatment-related decisions.
And if you're facing an immediate crisis, or if you just need to talk to someone who understands, don't hesitate to call the Recovery Crisis Line at 503-223-8569. That number is also on our website. Help is available for 24/7.
Now let's begin our episode
Of recovery, real recovery.
Hi, I'm Julie.
And I'm Peter. And we're here with Becca.
And I'm Becca.
And it's great to have you, as I was saying. And I'm glad you didn't have to bike it for 40 minutes in the rain.
Yes. Simple 10-minute drive.
That was dedication. Absolutely.
Spirit of service.
Cool. I don't know much about your history, your story. I think I've seen you a few times in the rooms, so I'm excited to hear where it all began, how your addiction worked into your life and became a part of your life, because some people it's like from childhood, and some people it's later in life, things that happen. So I'm curious to hear how it happened for you.
Oh gosh, it definitely started with a bang, I would say. I fell right into pretty much alcoholic drinking out of high school. I didn't do a lot of drinking and partying in high school.
Me either.
Yeah, I was like cheerleader and
Sports and stuff.
Very involved.
I didn't have sex in high school either.
Neither did I.
I'm
Similarity.
a bad boy.
I made up for it. It's all good.
Same, definitely made up for it. But yeah, I was always very involved I was a dancer. I was a ballet dancer in my youth and had a pretty solid childhood. There was a lot of chaos in my childhood, definitely. Divorce, a lot of mental illness in my family, which I also suffer from as well. I was diagnosed bipolar 6 months into my first round of sobriety, which was over 10 years now, probably about 15 years. So yeah, mental illness, violence, addiction. Yeah, a lot of chaos and drama in my family of origin. But yeah, my youth was pretty good, pretty solid. I always had a really solid group of friends around me. And then it was just off to the races when I went to college, and it was binge drinking right away.
Okay.
Yeah, and that resulted in some pretty immediate depression. Struggling. And that's also, though, when bipolar kind of starts up, is when you're in your early 17, 18, 19, 20 type. So there was that happening as well, although I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
But yeah, the drinking came on with a bang, and then drugs very quickly followed. Just got wrapped up in a bad scene. I was a club girl. I was like drinking in nightclubs, and then started working in nightclubs, and got super addicted to cocaine and ecstasy. This was the early 2000s, so the after hours scene was crazy. Yeah. And I just got swept up in it. And I was trying to be in college.
I did a lot of ecstasy. I think they call it Molly now.
Yeah.
I don't know Molly. But
When I was doing it, it was not MDMA, I guess, right? That was the
Yeah, I heard
origin of
that.
it. And then ecstasy, what I knew of ecstasy was a whole bunch of stuff all mixed together with MDMA. So I'm pretty sure the stuff that I was doing was cut with all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Meth.
I did the regular MDMA,
Yeah.
danced all night. It was, I would say, not filled with anything, but that was my gateway to meth.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
I remember
I thought
that story.
they looked the same, so they
Yeah.
would be the same.
Mhm.
No.
Nope. Yeah, I think poppers was the most that I did besides drinking, in the clubs, but that was a thing back
Yeah.
when I was out in the clubs.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
Every generation seems to have a different thing and
Different
a different
club drug.
name. Yeah, a different club drug, exactly.
Mhm.
I'm so grateful that I'm not from the fentanyl era.
I'd be dead.
So would I.
I would absolutely be dead.
So would I.
Yeah. It
I'm
would have happened a long time
the
ago.
good thing is I'm scared to death.
Mhm.
Literally.
Yeah, it's a whole new ballgame out there now.
Yeah. It really is.
So
So it was just more about being in the scene and being part of your peers that started. And
yeah,
it wasn't to cover up anything, or it wasn't to escape, or
I don't think so. I think some of it was empowering. It was exciting. It was so much bigger than anything I had ever known. And then when you have undiagnosed bipolar disorder coupled with these drugs that were so intense and going to like festivals and concerts. And I remember the first time I did cocaine and that rush, that euphoric feeling. And I've heard addicts talk about this a lot, is you feel that. And it's interesting that you mentioned kind of covering things up, because I wanted to feel that. I just got obsessed with it. I wanted to feel it as often as I could, no matter what. So it was like, it quickly turned into all I thought about, just getting high. It was such an up and down, and those extreme highs were just, they seemed so just powerful. I just thought I'd found what I was looking for. Like, what is this? How did I not know about this? And I found it, and I'm just going to keep doing it. And so.
And then you try to maintain it, and that's
Exactly.
where.
Yeah. And the crushing depressions following were extremely difficult to manage. I couldn't stay in school. I couldn't keep a job. It was just chaos. I was getting wrapped up in very toxic relationships with men who were also using or dealing, or so. Yeah, it really hit hard with a bang, and I just spiraled.
And so how did that progress? You were able to maintain your world, your working, and 'cause
That-
it usually ends.
It's funny, because that particular time, there were some very scary moments, and I continued to use drugs like throughout, I would say, all of my 20s and into my 30s, but not to the level that I was at that point. I think there was maybe a 2 or 3 year period that kind of kicked everything off. And then it was like, okay, I got to learn how to maintain this. And drinking was a great solution to that. Yeah. So I was able to continue waiting tables. And then I guess you could say I had some success in that world. It's a great industry for alcoholics, because you don't have to be at work until 3 or 5 or 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So I think starting at like 25 years old, I was cocktail waitressing, and I was waiting tables and in finer establishments. The alcoholism was just continuously progressing. And I think when you're young and invincible, it doesn't seem like as much of a problem, or at least it becomes much of a more obvious as you age.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. I had all these rules to maintain my sober life from my drinking life, and not drinking before a certain time, or only after a certain time, certain days of the week. I swore I'd never show up drunk to work. I'd never let it interfere with my work. Although I was so hungover, like I was a binge drinker towards the latter part of my alcoholism, and I know that like my boss would come into the studio and be like, "Wow, it smells like a brewery in here," and I'm like, "Oh, it must be aftershave or something." I thought it was like whatever. I'm sure it was just oozing out of my pores, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was-
And in that part of my life, I wasn't drinking during the day unless it was like a planned thing and I was off. I worked and I drank after work, and sometimes there was cocaine involved and sometimes scary things happened. But I don't know. I guess I was just able to coast, so to speak, in that style of living for a
Yeah.
long time.
When you did you party with, how did you get involved with the LGBT community?
I didn't get involved in that community until I was sober, actually.
Wow.
I hung out in gay bars and stuff, but my community was,
Because you do a lot now for the
I do.
LGBTQ
yeah.
to Z
Mhm.
community.
Yeah, I didn't find my queer community, so to speak, until sobriety, until I started going to gay meetings. And I did always have really close gay male friends throughout my life, but I wouldn't say that it was like a community, so to speak. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So when was it not workable? When did you realize that,
When was it? Yeah.
I need to do something here. This is not working out.
Well, the drinking and the restauranting and there was a horrible marriage thrown in there. I was in a relationship it was very addicty. It was very toxic and crazy. And I got out of that, and I always seemed to bounce back from things. I would have a low in my life and then I would pop up momentarily. So there seemed to be a little bit of, I guess, recovery from that situation. And then I, of course, immediately got into another relationship with a guy who was probably 13 years older than me. So at that point, it was almost like he was like a dad figure, but he was also my boyfriend. Gross. But he wasn't okay with the drinking. He was, but he was almost like an anchor for me. So things calmed down, but not really. Like, I was still an alcoholic. The alcoholism was still progressing, but it was like, I'm drinking at home. I'm not really going out every night. When I did, though, it was crazy. So he and I moved to Park City, Utah. He had been a manager for a restaurant group there many years before. He was like, let's go, let's do something else. I can get us jobs there. And so we did that, and I was there for about 9 months. And the drinking was definitely escalating. I was just doing it a lot at home, though. So I didn't have these evidence.
Social environment.
Yeah,
either.
except I did that during that time. I literally had to be carried home like a few times type thing, starting to wet myself under the influence. And then I started experiencing major mental illness, like major bipolar stuff. Bipolar has like episodes of mania and depression. Mania, typically, what people understand as mania is this euphoric, you feel great, you spend all your money, you're just up there. There's another side of mania called dysphoric mania, and that's awful. But you're still like, you're amped up, you just don't feel good. You feel dysphoric versus euphoric. So I would be awake for days and days, and like I started experiencing some psychosis, delusional, not totally sure what's real, what's not all the time, but sometimes, and I was like, okay, I'm not okay. I need to remove myself from this situation. And so I called my dad. He flew out there. I came home. Soon as I get into town, I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't know. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to see people that I had known. And so I went and I shacked up with some guy friend of mine who I knew would like take me in. And we went camping for the weekend. And that was like a 2-week bender. I was just drunk every night for 2 weeks. Driving, and then I blacked out and I drove my car one night from East Hawthorne to St. John's, where my mom lived. I was staying the night at her place watching her dogs. And that next day, I woke up more terrified than I had ever been, ever. And I just knew, this has got to stop. There's something very wrong here. And
that's a long drive, too.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Long drive.
And I had drunk drove many times, but something was different about this episode. I think it was like all of like where my life had led up to. And then it was just like, what is happening?
Wow.
Who am I? What is going on? So I refer to that as like one of my first real moments of clarity. And I drove to my dad's house. It was like 7 a.m. and I woke him up and I said, I'm an alcoholic and I need help.
It's very similar in how, like, my first wake up call was at Bender for over a weekend and then into the next week. So I didn't make it to work, couldn't find me.
Yeah.
They sent people to where I lived and to see if I was okay. And then I ended up having to get a hold of my boss, and I let it all go. I said, I'm so sorry, but I've been on a bender. I have a problem. And I can't have you working here with that. And I was a contractor at that time, and I drove from New Jersey all the way back to Chicago overnight.
Yeah.
And got to...
Not in a blackout.
No, not in a blackout. But I was terrible. I felt I was in such an awful condition. And I got back home and told my husband, I said, I can't do this. I was helpless.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to do. I said, I've got to get back home, meaning back here to the Northwest, because I felt like that's what I needed to have my grounding.
Totally.
I'd lost being grounded by being so far away, and that was amongst many other things. But yeah, so very similar how that long drive, that was the worst ever. And they had all these signs. It was pitch black, and they had all these signs. Deer, beware, deer cry. And I was like, yeah, that's what's going to happen to me. They're going to jump out, and I'm going to hit a deer, and that's going to be it. But I made it home. Yeah. So you were able to...
So that happened, and I started going to meetings. My dad said he was super supportive. He was awesome. I was going to go to treatment. So we were exploring that whole day. It was awful, but it was amazing because it was that first moment of surrender. And the treatment thing wasn't going to work out financially. And he was like, do you know anyone in AA? And I said, yes. And I called my dear friend Frank, and who was a gay guy. I say was because he's no longer with us. But yeah, I called him, and he took me to my first meeting, and I was like, okay, I got to do this. So I was living with my dad for a while, and that was my first kind of real honest go around with recovery. I found a home group, I found a sponsor, and I started doing the deal.
That's cool.
Yeah, and Frank actually, he died of an overdose in 2020.
Oh.
So there's a whole backstory to that. But the beautiful part of, I think, what he gave me was that thing, how the program in its purest form works is when one alcoholic talks to another. So I'll always have that gift that he gave.
Yeah.
Even though he's not here anymore.
Maybe his purpose was to get you to AA.
Yeah.
My daughter's father died of an overdose too. And I'm so glad it wasn't me. So grateful. And he had just come from treatment. Yeah. The last time we saw him, he was still in treatment. And he got signed out by his sponsor to come watch my daughter's basketball game. And then he left treatment and just used one time.
One time.
Yeah. I do. There was a statistic the other day that only 6% of people that come into AA stay. So how lucky are we?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. And
it literally brings me to tears knowing that why did I get so lucky and someone else did? And I'm super I can always get overwhelmed with life. And being a member of AA brings to not being overwhelmed. Just going to a meeting can fix my crazy brain.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of us suffer from dual diagnosis. And I think when back, like you're saying, in the 2000s, bipolar 1 wasn't as easily diagnosed as it is now. And a lot of people medicated with alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
To numb the pain.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that can get diagnosed quicker and get the medication quicker. And I still think there was a lot of suffering behind. How long have you been sober?
So there's been some There's been some relapses. There's
the
been
journey.
some yeah. So this time around, I actually celebrated 5 years this past January. So I've got almost
That's
5.5
amazing.
years. Yeah.
I've actually almost known you that amount of time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. At our friend Robin's house playing bingo
That's
and
right.
stuff like that.
Yep.
I would love to know for our listeners, right?
Mhm.
Because we're just getting started with the podcast.
Mhm.
But you asked me to chair at True Colors, and I had only, I don't know if I had been there yet or I was going. I don't think I had been there ever yet. Because
No?
I went another time for ice cream.
You went for a show. Yeah, you came to one of our
Yeah.
drag shows.
So I went for 50 Licks ice cream. I made one of the guys
That
from
would draw me too.
Oh, yeah.
my group, and I had chocolate as fuck, the
Yes.
ice cream, and I was so happy. Like,
I remember that. I remember being out on the patio with you, having your chocolate as fuck.
yeah. And then literally I got someone else's ticket and went back. I was so excited, for real. And I think that was my second time there. I've been there a couple times now, but we were talking about another chance. We've talked about different programs. I would like to know how you got to there,
Mm-hmm.
how you got your meeting started. And I want people to know about your meeting
Mm-hmm.
because your meeting is very inclusive and it's diverse. And the things that you do make people belong in a different way. Like we go play bingo at the park.
Right.
You have drop down shows. You bring unique people together in a very special way. And I would love people to know about it because, like I said, we're going to True Colors in about a week.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is to let people know about all the different places they can go
Yeah.
and be safe. And True Colors offers some different stuff that other places don't.
Definitely.
Between yoga
Oh, yeah.
and meditation meetings, painting, like
I need to do the yoga.
They have Dharma there. They have different ideas about recovery. I've always just been AA, but I respect that there's other options there.
yeah, there's Marijuana Anonymous
Yeah.
there. What else is there?
There's Dharma, there's MA, there's yoga. Do they have NA there?
They do.
They have narcotics.
What's Dharma?
Recovery Dharma. It's like a Buddhist approach to recovery. Yeah.
I've heard that term a few times. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. And then I think they have Stoners Sober or something. They have something it's okay that's your journey. and you
California Sober.
can- California Sober, so to speak.
Do you know I didn't know that until that meeting?
Really?
Yeah, I was like, so I was there and I was eating ice cream and I was like, it smells like hella weed here. And Roger
Yeah.
said to me, oh, that's California sober. And I said, so do you have to be from California? I didn't know, but I do understand that path because
Absolutely.
that's how I got off meth.
Yeah.
I don't know that and the doctor told me, do it.
Yeah.
And it's legal now, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like the different approaches.
Me
And if
too.
it works for you, we talked about this last week, bring this up because last week's person is very unique in a different way, a very religious way, which a lot of people get scared by God when you're first in the program and they have to define it. Like it didn't change for me for a long time.
Yeah.
But everybody has their own program.
Absolutely.
And I can't tell Peter what to do and you what to do. You can suggest, you can assist, but everybody has their own program. And that's one of the things I like about True Colors. It's very diverse and it's not just one way. That's what I like about our meeting. There's people that come there that are alcoholic, recovering meth, heroin. We've had overeaters, alcoholics, IV users all in our program. So it's been very diversified as well.
Yeah.
And we need it.
Yeah.
We do.
We need it more than ever.
And a safe place.
Well, things have changed over the years, obviously. And so when AA was formed and some of the old ideas and principles just don't resonate with people today. And like the club I went to, it's very conservative and this is Alcoholics Anonymous, not
Right.
drug.
Yep.
So whenever anybody would come in and start talking about their drug addiction, it was the old timers would almost get
Have a
you
cow.
know, yeah, and push them out of the room, basically.
What is that?
And it's an addiction. Yeah, I didn't understand it, and it kept me from my full sobriety. And it wasn't until I was at the lunch bunch where I realized, oh, and my people, really, that's what I was like, my people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when I first started coming into the rooms, and I haven't heard this happen in a long time, but maybe that's because I spend a lot of my time in True Colors and stuff. But even talking about medication was taboo.
I was scared. So when I came to Lunch Bunch, no one mentioned other drugs. And sometimes I can relate because I've heard it a lot, but I've never drunk and drive.
Mm-hmm.
And you've probably never heat packed your arm with a hot towel to get a vein erased. It's disgusting. And I've never smoked meth.
Mm-hmm.
But I think addiction, and people say this and I agree. I didn't used to agree, but I do now. I think addiction, you can be addicted to more. You can get addicted to anything.
Absolutely.
I've never done heroin. I'm sure I'm a heroin addict.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to test it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure, I'm a fentanyl addict. I don't want to try it.
Right.
Like,
don't test that theory.
yeah, exactly.
Please.
I love baked goods.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I can get addicted to tennis shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I have them in all sorts of colors. It was my thing for a while.
Yeah.
When you hear the stories, the ideas behind them, why I did what I did, there's a lot of commonality and similarity. Just because you used a different substance doesn't mean there's something there to how you got into it.
Absolutely.
and how you got out of it, how you started your journey in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want to do with this show, is to let people hear those stories, and maybe they'll resonate with something that they've heard from someone.
Yeah.
And we're not going to shoo anybody away because of anything. We want to hear all the different opinions and different stories, different paths people took. Because hopefully it'll help someone else.
Definitely.
And the God thing for me was another big thing. That kept me out of it completely for a long time, because my being gay and how I was brought up, in the church, and that was a sin and evil thing, and you need to change that. It's can I change my my body parts or whatever? You just can't change it. It's who you are.
So God felt punishing.
Yeah.
When I first came to, I believed in God, but I was mad at God.
Mm-hmm.
Mad at God for, how dare I go to prison?
Mm-hmm.
How dare you take over $250,000 from my bank account and make me go to prison and make me pay taxes on it? Really? I did. And I always say this, when I got out of prison, the parole officer was my higher power. She chose when I peed in a cup. She chose whether I went back. Now knowing that it was only me who had that, and then it changed to the group of drunks. Mm-hmm. That was my God. And I'm going to tell you, I like good orderly direction. And there's so many things. And it wasn't until 10 years sober that I switched it. Mm-hmm. And in the book where it says came to believe, that was what really happened for me. And then I will tell you, I call it a reset. Me and Colette, our other board of director, we're talking about it today. When I went out and went to IOP at 25 years sober, it was like a reset for me. And I literally started believing and having faith more than I ever had that I would make it through. And the good thing is, I'm part of the No Matter What Club still.
That's right.
Know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to meetings, you got sober, you had a little research left to do.
Oh, yeah.
But you got back into it. So how do you maintain your sobriety? And when you did go back out, how did you get yourself back in? Or maybe talk a little bit about what the reasons were for you going back out, just for those who are in that state of mind.
Sure. So I found my first home group, which my dad, when I was living with my dad, that was in Selwood. I was waiting tables still. I scrapped up enough money to get my own place, and I moved to Milwaukee. And my first home group was Milwaukee Women's Study Group in Milwaukee. I don't know if that meeting's still there or not, but yeah, I got a service position. I made the coffee every Friday, but I still had bipolar. So I came into the rooms feeling desperate, and I knew that I needed help, and I knew that not drinking was part of the solution, but I didn't know that my mania was about to get way worse because now I don't have the alcohol to moderate me. And I was using that to go to sleep at night, to wake up. It was regulating me. It was giving me like circadian rhythm, so to speak. People with bipolar sometimes just don't have that naturally. So all of a sudden I'm 6 months sober and I'm like suicidal because I'm doing everything in my power that I feel is right. And it's starting to get dark up in my head.
And the crutches.
And I'm like, this is not fair. I'm doing everything in my power to do the next right thing and stay sober, and I want to die. And that was the first time that I never had a plan to end my life. There was never there wasn't a plan, but if I would have been done, it would have been just, that's how dark it was.
Wow.
And the magic of AA showed up just in time. And I go to my Friday meeting one day, and there's a woman in that meeting who was a retired psychiatric nurse. And I was just a mess. I was like, couldn't make eye contact with people. I'm just really struggling, and people are trying to help me. And I just feel like it's that psychotic thing. I'm here, but I'm not here. And she took me aside and she sat me down and she just asked me some questions. She recognized what she was a psych nurse. And she asked me some questions, and I had been on a medication and I kept taking myself off of it kind of thing because I didn't know what the hell was going on with me. And she just said, she helped me. And she helped me find a doctor. I was getting free health care. Yeah. And
there's
slowly,
an angel.
Yeah, I was going to say,
There's
talk about God
freaking
shots.
angel.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't like that day I was better, but that was a moment of, just grace, someone showing me grace. And it was like baby steps, trial and error, got a doctor, got the diagnoses, and things got better. Things started to get much better. And then I met my now husband, and we started dating, and I was just on top of the world. And then I got a different job working at an even fancier restaurant. And I just thought I had it. And I convinced myself that I didn't have alcoholism, that I just had mental illness.
Wow.
You know, I was like, maybe. And what was also happening, which I hear many people say, I was getting away from my community. And I didn't really have a super solid foundation in recovery. I just had that one meeting. I was keeping it really small. So what I had to do this time around was make it really big. I had to make AA the focal point of, I had to get comfortable. I had to get comfortable talking and sharing and being open. And I just had to go to a shit ton more meetings. I had to find my groove with it.
And it's not easy.
No.
For anybody out there, you have to go.
Gotta try.
You do. And
Yeah.
if you're not at the right meeting, go to another.
Go to another one. Just keep going.
And then when you do get comfortable, go to others and share so they get comfortable.
Mm-hmm. So that's when I started going to gay meetings and finding my queer community. And can I say people's names, or should I?
If you want to say Bryce, you can
Yes.
say Bryce.
So Bryce and I met and became friends, and we did a little drag bingo in the basement at the Alano and had a ton of fun. And we met our now friend Peter, who was a big part of our drag troupe. But anyways, he was like, what if we did like a pop-up amateur drag show? And I was like, okay, that sounds fun.
And I think it's great that you're straight.
Yeah.
And you do drag.
I know.
And you're married. You were the first person I knew to do that.
Oh, it confuses people a lot.
It doesn't confuse me. I just think it's exceptionally unique.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing that you can do it. Absolutely.
And I didn't know if I could do it. In
I
fact,
couldn't wear that much makeup. Not even on a good day. Yeah.
I didn't know. I was like, is this okay? I'm a cisgendered female. I don't want to be disrespectful. And I was just accepted with love and acceptance the way that he is. But we do it in the context of recovery. So it's a little bit different.
Oh,
it's
I
not
know.
like we're out there, and we do perform out in the wild, so to speak, every once in a while. But what makes us special is that we're doing drag in a recovery context.
No,
Yeah.
and I love it. And you
Yeah.
bring in what I've seen. You bring in people from that community that really need a cool place to be sober.
That what I love about that is that was one of the things I was like, oh, my fun days are over. I'm sober, because
Yes.
that was such a thing. Part of I drank to go before I went out, because
Mhm.
and I love we aren't a glum lot, that line, and to see it taken to the level that I haven't been. So I can't wait to go and
Well, I'll
see
take
how it
you.
is. But to hear it to that level, I think is fantastic,
Yeah.
because you can have fun
So much
sober.
So much fun.
And it's like a club atmosphere.
Yeah.
It reminds me, because there's a lot of younger people
Mm-hmm.
there, it reminds me a lot of the City Nightclub
Ooh.
and some of the most famous drag queens we've ever had
Yeah.
grace that place. And people that are on TV now and
Mm-hmm.
just do amazing things that didn't become an alcoholic. They
Yeah.
can drink like normal people. But I've seen not just Bryce, because I remember Bryce coming in, and I've seen Bryce grow and Dorothy come up and chair that meeting. And when she shared her story, holy
It
shit.
was amazing.
It was amazing. And she's one of my Spice girls. Not that I do drag, but we had a group of us that went to bingos, and I told her she always looked like Posh Spice.
Oh, yes.
So, because she wears a lot of cool jewelry.
Def-
But yeah.
What's funny, or just incidental, Peter
Yes.
and I grew up together
What?
and we were in Boy Scouts even. So it goes back that far. Peter
You were a
Griggs,
Boy
right?
Yeah.
Scout?
Yeah, and we
Wow.
used to
In Washington?
yes, on Bainbridge Island.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we used to perform, okay, I'm bringing it up, Xanadu. I used to perform to
Oh,
Xanadu
my
and a
Lord.
couple other things in my bedroom in front of the mirror. My mom had this hairpiece thing. We'd put it on and we'd do this thing. And I got a picture of him somewhere. Yeah, so we've lost touch, and I just communicate now with, through Facebook and stuff. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see him again, because
Always.
we've got a lot of catching up to do.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it's cool to hear that he's doing well over there. And
You
He's an
performed
amazing-
Xanadu? I'm devastated. Devastated. I never
we
had.
used to lip sync in front of.
That is
Yeah.
adorable.
It was
Yeah.
Janet.
Janet.
Always Janet.
Always
yeah.
Janet.
So that is cool. So how did we get to True Colors?
So True Colors,
They haven't been around that long.
they've been around literally just as long as the Glam Lot's been around. And then that's not because, but so it was just coincidental that it worked out this way. So we were like, where are we going to have this amateur drag show? We were thinking about doing it at what's the community center that Lunch Bunch is at?
Sunnyside.
Yes, we were thinking about doing it at Sunnyside. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved in trying to get to the people that make the decisions. And so Sharif, who was part of the Glam Lot at that point, was like, you need to meet Amanda, the director of True Colors. They're just getting set up. So True Color was 4D. 4D was having this rebrand, so to speak. And they were literally just getting started. And we went and met the director one day and said, can we do a drag show? And she said, okay.
She's now the executive director. And
Yeah.
shout out to Care Oregon, who funds
Definitely.
True Colors. I think we pay a lot of money for our room.
Mhm.
And they offered Peter and I a meeting for 2 months free and $10 a month. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And they've offered the space for us to record.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just so open-minded to new things. And for those people who don't know, 4D has another program now with 4D.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's that?
All for Care Oregon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Care
That is so
Oregon
cool.
is like amazing. They know Portland needs help, and they've been giving it. Let me tell you,
Mhm.
they sponsor some really amazing things.
That is so fantastic. I can't wait. I think it's the weekend after next we're going to go, right?
We are. And then I really want to speak with Terry.
Yes.
Yes. Another Freedom Award winner in, again, Care Oregon. Just, I can't say it enough. They really, the only way Portland gets better is through these programs. You and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
That Portland, for those who don't know, is #1 in the United States in addiction and last in treatment centers available. So these places are everything because there's not enough treatment facilities. And I do see people getting sober through them.
And I think the youth, the earlier that you can find a place that you can either never get into the drugs and stuff, I think if you have an opportunity, or if you have to realize that, oh, I don't have to drink to be fun on the dance floor, which is what my MO was.
I'm just amazed at some of these young, to me, they're babies. I'm like, I could be your mom. And they see that there's a
I could
problem.
be their grandmother.
Right.
Okay.
But they see that there's an issue. And I don't know if there's more information available to them now or what it is, but it definitely is much more scary with fentanyl and everything. So that could play into it. But I'm just amazed. And I grieve like my youth sometimes because I'm like, if I would have if I could have just.
Right.
If I could have just. But there was no way that it was happening when I was in my 20s. I didn't know anything about recovery. I didn't know anything about.
But it makes you who you are now.
Absolutely.
And then again, the journey with Bryce and to start this meeting. Just to shout out, the meeting name is Kings and Queens.
Kings and Queens, Wednesdays at 7 p.m.
At True Colors.
At True Colors.
And we'll have a link on our website.
It's an AA meeting, but of course we accept every type of addiction.
And you guys do something different. So there's something that I really, really admire about your meeting. And I was like, holy shit, this is different, right? But they pass around the phone list every meeting if you want to be on it. And I really like that. The other thing is there a newcomer that wants to speak right in the beginning? So between the phone list and the newcomer time, they really make the newcomer feel comfortable, where not every meeting does that. In Lunch Bunch, we offer the phone list, but not to be on it. There's a lot of times at night when I'm Zoom hosting that I'll be like, I can get you on the phone list. I have connections. And now Peter does the phone list
guy.
That's my job.
But literally, people just belonging or getting a call from someone. And I think that is how you do it is really good.
Yeah. It's so funny that newcomer approach, we had a person who showed up at our meeting, this was a while back now, and we weren't even on the schedule yet. So nobody was coming to our meeting. We were like, what the heck? And we actually even thought about shutting it down. And I was like, no, we got to get on the schedule. It will happen. We just got to persevere. So this guy that we met shows up, and I think it was literally just me, him, and maybe 2 other people. Bryce wasn't there for whatever reason. And he was like, I have this great idea for a meeting approach. And so he was the one that kind of introduced it. He wrote the script and everything. And then he ended up having a major issue with us. It was a whole thing. So he left in a huff. It was just a personality clash type of a thing. So It's funny because we still know people that know him. And like he goes to a meeting in Vancouver. And we're still cordial, when we see him. But it's funny because, he probably doesn't have very nice things to say about us, but he did give us that gift.
The good thing is you have nice things to say about him.
Of course.
And for anyone out there that gets tired of personality, literally that's why it's principles before personalities. And I think it was at, 22 years sober. Somebody I had been really involved in with the program, I realized they had lied to me for a really long time, and it was a dumb lie. But it shaked my core. And I had gone to a meeting. I was chairing a meeting the next day, God shot, right? And I said, I don't know if I'm going to come back to AA. I'm really upset. And this person said to me, the program is in the books, not in the fellowship. And I was like, yeah, the books never lied to me.
Mhm.
And even though the book can seem outdated
Mhm.
because it was written in 1936,
Mhm.
there are parts of the book that, especially 86 through 88, which everybody says read, and someone read it again today, and just talking about changing your attitude,
Mhm.
and that will stay current forever. There's some parts that should never be changed.
Mhm.
It's
Well,
amazing.
they're life lessons, really.
Yeah.
Anybody, whether you're an addict or not, could take something away from it, right?
And that makes it amazing. That makes AA amazing. If the rest of the world could learn how to function the way that we do in AA and put aside the way that we're so punk rock because it's the least amount of organization, but yet we keep it like it blows my mind the way that AA, every
country, it's the same. It might be a different language, but it's the same. If you travel, you'll always have a place to go.
Always.
And if you don't have $1 in your pocket, then just show up. It's self-supporting through its own contributions, just like our podcast.
Yes.
But it is, and you could pay thousands and thousands of dollars for therapy. And I get a lot out of therapy, but I get a lot out of a meeting.
Mhm.
And therapy's new to me at 25 years sober. Who would have thought?
And attraction rather than promotion. I love that
Mhm.
principle.
I went to prison for promotion. It's not my favorite word. And then also it says AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, or institution.
Mhm.
I went to AA in an institution,
True
so
that.
I just that part I always read the
That's
preamble.
funny. I've never thought about that
Yeah.
before.
I'd like to know, we touched on fellowship a little bit, but also sponsorship and
Mhm.
service. Now, it sounds like you're very much involved in service,
Yeah.
but for those listening who maybe aren't, is it just secretary meetings? Is it just cleaning coffee cups?
Mhm.
I look at this, what we're doing here with the podcast is a part of service. Showing up to a
Absolutely.
meeting is service. So I'd like to hear your take on service. And
Service, I think, just means being in the rooms, connecting with others, speaking your truth, be kind to someone if you see someone struggling. I raise my hand when we say, is anybody willing to be a temporary sponsor? Yeah, sponsoring's huge. I've had my same sponsor now for my whole ride, this last ride. So almost 6 years. She's like family
Wow.
to me. She's amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, she's a very well-respected member of our community. She's written a book. Yeah, and I just think it's literally just showing up and participating and making your recovery bigger. And then the things just come as they're supposed
Sometimes
to.
just letting someone hi and recognizing them. It's amazing. For me, the only reason I came back was there was this guy named James. Rest in peace. He's passed. He passed sober, but he passed from AIDS. And the first day I went there, I just cried the entire time. And he said, Julie, are you going to come back tomorrow? And I only came back because he said, Julie, are you coming back tomorrow? And then the next day, Julie, will I see you tomorrow? And he said that to me for a very long time and gave me a hug.
Mhm.
And my goal was 6 months. I'm out. I just need to get off parole. And
27 years later.
27 years
Almost
later,
2
you're still with us.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel a hot mess still, but using doesn't go through my brain. And it took a while, the first 3.5 years. So there's hope if you don't get it right off the bat. And I was lucky. I found a home in AA and a good place to stay. But trust me, I relapsed before then. I just haven't had to stick a needle in my arm since I got to AA,
Mhm.
you know? So relapse, it's progress, not perfection.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just don't give up before it happens. And I think no matter what you're going through,
And I'm going through some crap right now, just on medication and stuff. And with AA, whatever you're going through, NA, whatever program you're in, is better than using, drinking, and going through it, no matter what.
No
I
matter
promise you.
Yeah, I keep sharp in my memory the most troubling times I've had, even though they're hurtful, but it's a reminder that I don't ever want to get back to that state. I don't want to go through what I went through.
I'm not willing to do that.
No.
Yeah. And it's not, luckily for me, my point of view has changed as well. It's not about a fancy house for me, a BMW or whatnot. Sobriety has to be first, else nothing else works. You know? Yeah.
Well, thank you.
It's simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you
really,
for having
really
me.
appreciate it, being vulnerable and opening up. Are there any last words you have for our audience?
Keep coming back.
I love that.
I love it. And want to give a shout out one last time to True Colors.
True Colors, come to our meeting. We have a show on June 22nd. It's going to be a Pride celebration. Yeah, check us out.
I'll put that on our
And-
website.
And then I want to say 2 weeks before that, and I can correct the details if I'm wrong, but we're going to have a tea dance at True Colors as well, which is a promotional event, so to speak, for the event, but just another time to get together and fellowship
I
and
love it.
have sober fun.
I love
Listen
it.
to some great music. We've got an amazing DJ, so
That's cool. And all this is on your website?
it's on True Colors website.
True Colors website.
Yeah.
So I will have that link for sure on our site. I might have it already, but,
I
I'll make
actually
sure it's
think
there.
we do have it on our website,
Nice.
but if not, it will be up
Yeah.
there before this
show,
show airs.
Yeah.
It's
And,
just me and trying to, every day it's, okay, what do I have to do? And I fit in as much as I can. And then the next
Yep.
day it's a little bit more. We're getting it much better. It's coming together. So
This is really exciting. And yeah, thank you so much. And
I feel like we're going to be the voice of Sober Portland or something. by the
that's
time we're
that's
done.
exciting.
Our
You've got
goal-
great insight.
And our goal is if someone's in a car, and hopefully they'll see there's all different stories. There's different bottoms. You don't have to go to prison. Hopefully you won't. And you can get some help. There's programs out there. There's places to go, whether you have money, you don't have money, whether you're gay, you're straight. We don't care if you're what denomination you are, what sex you are. Just go. Get the help
It's
you
just
need.
like addiction doesn't care. We don't
Right.
care. So go to a meeting.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening. RealRecoveryPodcast.com. We'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks to each and every one of you for lending us your ears and hearts. Your engagement is what fuels our passion and keeps this podcast thriving.
We cherish the moments we share here and hope they resonate with you, whether you're on a daily commute, at the gym, or just taking a moment for yourself.
Make sure to head over to our website at realrecoverypodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter for the latest insights and uplifting stories from our community delivered straight to your inbox.
Click that subscribe button on your favorite podcast player too, so you can keep up with every new episode. It's your support that keeps our conversation alive and meaningful.
And if our stories have touched you, consider using the donate button on our site. Your contributions, no matter the size, are deeply appreciated. They help us continue our mission of sharing hope and healing.
Join us beyond the podcast and follow our journey on social media. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and on X, formerly known as Twitter. All the links are on our site, so you can stay connected and be a part of the Real Recovery community every day.
Your likes, shares, and comments not only spread the message of recovery, but also remind us that we're all in this together.
So, until we meet again, remember that recovery is a journey, not a destination, and we'll be here to accompany you every step of the way to recovery, real recovery.
Thanks for listening.